posted, but again, being a small town, everything is part-time. I would like to suggest that any warrant for any town meeting should be A, on the town website, which it was not, and B, that it would be in the Barre Gazette before the fact, not after everything was voted on, because I could not find it. And then secondly, to my belief, being an old lady, what is on the warrant,
Excuse me.
I'm a young lady,
Yeah.
thank you.
Senior lady.
Senior, I'm a senior. What is posted, what is written on the warrant is what should be. You're all, I mean, I know you're paid exorbitant salaries
Yes.
for doing this. You're giving of your time. We have a finance committee for a reason. And I feel it was disrespectful and rude to them for the warrant to be changed, that we're trying to follow what was written, what we were handed, and that was not what was what. And so I feel that if a warrant should be posted, and that's what we should be dealing with, so that the finance committee has time to deal with that and inform the townspeople, what they feel. And so basically, when they change things like that, when they change the wording, I understand that we needed to vote for the anniversary coming up. I was here for 50 years ago for that one. Watched it, it was very nice. They needed that. The second one, it was a matter of business, pay our bills. After that, those items, those articles should have been tabled until the finance committee could study them. They weren't given the right thing. They can't inform us of what they feel is right if they don't have the time to look at it.
Would you mind if I just made a comment?
Yes. No, I don't mind.
Michelle, thanks for coming tonight. I would tell you that it was, shall we say, a difficult town meeting for, I think, everybody there, including the select board. The warrant articles that were put together by our attorneys, okay, not by all those of us seated here, but by our attorneys, predicated on information that they felt was necessary and appropriate. And that language was something that the Finance Committee had opportunities to review with us and so forth. So we all went to the town meeting, okay? And when I arrived, the attorney comes over to me and says, "Oh, this article is all wrong." Now, his company, Copeland and Page, were the ones who put the warrant article together for us. And that's where what we were trying to do was to put the language that would allow, opportunities for how to fund this, okay? And the Finance Committee was in line with that. Both of the fire truck and the ambulance had been approved by full town meeting votes in June with, in the end, exactly the same language that we ended up with. Okay, so they took options about how to fund it, various ways, through a borrowing pattern, which was a little different from the, because the people said, no, we're not going to vote for it this way. We want it without a contingent vote on 2.5. So when that happened, you saw some people getting up, and the attorney was answering the questions and so forth. So in the end, as the moderator explained, you've already voted this, ladies and gentlemen. This was an authority that was already given to the fire department and to the ambulance folks, which are one and the same. And they've moved forward with hopefully putting together the, shall we say, purchase orders for these pieces of equipment. So what we were trying to do was to provide opportunities for funding strategies that the Budget and Finance Committee wanted and we agreed with. The attorneys gave us language that on the fly, when I walked into the thing, the guy comes up to me and says, "This is all wrong." And Budget.
Same thing with the Finance Committee.
Yes. Oh, yeah. I mean, so immediately when he said that to me, I said, "Okay, come here. You've got to talk with the Finance Committee." You probably saw us up there.
Yes.
Now, I would tell you the due diligence that we took and that the interim, we had spent time with our attorneys. to try to make sure we ferreted out the exact language that would be necessary. So, at any rate, what ended up happening is we basically ended up with the same language that was voted almost unanimously at the annual town meeting last year. So, that's basically where we are with that, and I certainly, trust me, you felt, okay, I could have crawled under the table.
I'm sure.
Because I couldn't say to people, look, this guy, he may or may not have been the one, okay, who actually gave us the language, because they have a myriad of attorneys.
I understand.
And I'd like to say we're the biggest account they have, but probably not. And so, that's how it happened. Am I proud of it? No. Do I wish it had been different? Do I wish that you would be here tonight to say, great meeting, Selectmen? It was not. And I don't know.
I would just say on a couple things. First and foremost, getting the information out there. I think that kind of, something we need to do more with, and something that kind of goes back to what was brought up last week about having a technology and communication committee that comes up with strategies to communicate with the town
Better.
what we're doing. And I think that's something we're going to try and move forward with, to have those systems in place. And then I will say it didn't occur to me to table it when we were at the town meeting. That wasn't something that occurred to me personally. But I do think that's something anyone in the town could motion to do, I believe.
Yes,
even if
we-
anyone could do it. I was so taken aback
Yeah.
that
It-
it was like,
it
I'm
was-
trying to follow
yes.
what was given to me. If that attorney wanted to change things, he should have printed stuff out, and we should have been handed a page, oh, this is, rewritten
Well,
these two articles.
my assumption
Yeah.
is he came to the meeting believing that his company, okay,
Done.
agency, had sent us the warrant articles. They did.
These,
Yeah.
which is not what was read. I'm an educated person, and I had trouble following, because you start off in the languages here, then something else is added, then you're jumping back in here. So I had trouble following that. People who have
Yeah.
reading difficulties, and I'm a reading specialist, by the way, I have trouble following that, okay? What is someone who has reading difficulties going to do when they're given that? Let's give people what we're talking about
Well,
at
the
the
only,
meeting,
the
is
only,
my point.
well, the
Yeah.
only thing we could do, please understand that when you're gonna see the town meeting that we're gonna set up, there'll be warrant articles. To raise and appropriate a sum of money for
Blah, blah, blah.
fire and ice, for snow and ice. Okay, there will not be a number in there, in the warrant that's on, okay, that we originally post, because Budget and Finance and others will be working right up basically until the time of the meeting to make sure all of our numbers are correct. So there's seldom a number in until such time as we go on town meeting floor. And you have more experience than, in this business than I do. I can tell you when the school budget's gonna come up. But I probably am not as sophisticated as you are, Greg, so you may wanna talk a little bit what the warrant articles are somewhat general.
The general, and in this case, the questions that you had raised are legitimate. The warrant article motions were actually sent to town council the day before town meeting to review, and the acknowledgement back was, thank you very much for providing this information. So there should have been no surprises at all, because it was sent to the attorneys. And if they said there needed to be changes, we could have incorporated those
Yep.
changes before town meeting, so.
And I believe it was incumbent upon them, since they were changing the language, to show up with something that could be handed to us with this, saying, the wording had to be changed, and then we wouldn't have had an hour and a half of confusion, which was pretty disgraceful.
Well, I thought it was more than an hour and a half. It seemed to me, as sitting there, feeling somewhat responsible for it all, that it was 3 or 4 hours.
I'm sure.
Yeah,
I'm sure, but it just, and I'll tell, this is the reason why a lot of people don't go to town meetings, because they see this kind of thing happening, and it's like, oh, I can't waste my time on that. And shame on us when we don't show up at a meeting. We should be there all the time. I don't care how busy I am. I'm very guilty, okay, and I will admit that, but it's.
Well, you're here tonight.
Yes.
And certainly, you say to me, nothing that surprises me. It's appropriate communication. We own it. I mean, I'd like to just say, yeah, the lawyers own it, but you know what? It was unfortunate.
I can certainly see it as reasonable to table till, the annual town meeting if, about half of the language is being cut out of and other parts are being changed. It's not something that occurred to me at the time, I will say, but.
And
Yeah.
I thought of it after, it was like, oh, I should have made a motion. This is, out of, I mean,
Yeah.
your people in town on boards, you're putting time in. And I just felt that was extremely disrespectful to the finance committee and just, unfair that, I mean, that poor chairman to have to get up and respond and, we didn't have.
Trust me, and we had both worked together on those articles. But even if you had tabled it, it's already been voted.
Right, no,
And so it wouldn't have changed a damn thing to table it. It would have ended
It would
up
have just
saying,
clarified the language of
It
how the
wouldn't
funding
clarify,
sources
it
was
wouldn't have
operated.
All that time was really a waste because there was so much confusion. And we should work to eliminate
well,
that.
it's
And
never,
I appreciate you folks, I have to
it's,
say
Cheryl,
that.
it's never a waste, because we have all learned something from it. At least I have.
That's for sure.
This is true, when you learn from it,
Yeah, exactly. So, there's no excuse to be made other than, we tried to do due diligence, it was not sufficient, and we ended up with where we ended up. So we really ended up with where we were in 2022 on those two articles. They are voted, they are going to have to be funded in the way it was structured there, and that will be challenging, as the Budget and Finance Committee person indicated. Challenges are something we have to live with, and so we'll live with it. We'll get a new fire truck and we'll get a new ambulance. And I hope I never need either one of them, but I guess it'll be good that we have them.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, Sam, let me have it.
Let me tell you something. I left the meeting and I said, Joshua Smith did a hell of a job. That's, I understood the intricacies and all this. Ultimately, it's gonna ultimately find its way and work out. But I thought Joshua Smith did an exceptional job.
Yeah, he does, he always does.
And it was just-
He's a talented
it was
guy.
It was nice to see that.
Yeah.
that's all.
Well, what's nice to see is the opportunity to have you come, Cheryl, and, tell me what I already knew, but appreciate that you certainly represent, I'm sure, a cadre of folks who felt that level of frustration.
Yeah.
And certainly there were people there who were very, very passionate about that fire truck and very, very passionate about that ambulance, and to their credit, they do wonderful things for our community.
Absolutely.
And I'm sure their level of frustration was equal to yours. And what they, in the end, walked out saying, it's done. We've got, and we do, and we have those
Right.
vehicles on, I think,
It's just, we have
To
to
be
live
built.
within
On order,
our
yeah.
means.
Yeah.
I have to live in my budget.
Right.
yeah. Well, the thing of it is, you sort of look at, and you try very, very hard to balance, expenditure patterns with needs. And just like all of us with this, inflationary rate, we know that so many of the things that we used to spend X for, now we're spending X plus whatever for. And that is what's happened in our FY23 budget, whether it be our fuel accounts, whether, and I can just go on. So we're gonna struggle for a couple of years trying to make it all work. And we appreciate people coming out and giving us their best insights into how to do it better.
It's just, but I would appreciate the warrant being more accessible
Okay.
before
Yeah.
the meeting.
Okay. Agreed. All set?
Yes.
Okay, thank you very much for coming, and that really would conclude public comment, unless there's somebody else here just for public comment. Okay, I think we can move on then to agenda items. Thanks again, Cheryl.
Thank you.
Good
I'm
to see you.
sorry you're not staying for the whole rest of it. Just kidding.
You're certainly welcome.
But the fun is just going to begin. We're gonna miss an opportunity.
Oh, all right, make me feel guilty.
Oh, no, I wasn't kidding.
It's not you, it's him.
Oh, gosh. Moving on to the approval of minutes, April 24th, 2023. Could I have a motion?
I move for the approval of the April 24th minutes from the select board meeting.
I would second that. Any further discussion?
Nope.
Modifications? Hearing none. Those in favor?
Aye.
Aye, it looks like a vote. Moving on to April 25, 2023.
It's very basic.
I appreciate the
Very
detail.
small.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, this is just this one, this one.
Yes.
I think that's an easy one.
Yes.
Yeah.
I move for the approval of the meeting minutes from the April 25th special town meeting.
I second that motion. Since it's only one line, I think we're good with that. Those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, moving on then. Town Administrator Report. Greg, would you like
I
to share
do.
with us?
Thank you, board members. Greg Valiakonis, for those in the audience, I'm the interim town administrator. And as we complete one town meeting, we have the annual town meeting on the horizon. And I'm going to ask that the board open the warrant today, May 1st, for the purposes of accepting warrant articles for the annual town meeting. And also recommend that the warrant be open until May 15th, at which time it will close for submission of warrant articles. And then I would also ask the board to affirm the date of town meeting. So the annual town meeting is on the calendar of June 13th. But I would just ask the board to open the warrant on May 1st, close it on May 15th, and again affirm the date of the town meeting as June 13th, 2023.
I would move that, your recommendation, and add to it that the warrant be posted on the town website and the Barre Gazette as requested by citizens, and that we open the warrant for submission of articles by the public on today, May 1st, and that we close at 5 PM, the warrant, we close the warrant period on May 15th at 5 PM.
I'd second.
We have a motion made and seconded regarding the warrant and for special town for our annual town meeting. Those in favor?
On June 13th.
And we'll affirm the town meeting date in the next motion.
Okay.
Okay? Well, this is just about the warrant article. Those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. And second motion to affirm the date of June 13th, 2023 for the annual town meeting for the town of Barre.
Do we need the time for that at this point?
I think it's 6:30 PM.
Yes, it is.
At 6:30 PM.
In that Ruggles Lane School, I guess we should say. Oh, wait a minute, maybe, we probably,
Do we need to set the location at this point?
well, location to be determined due to the fact that if it's really warm, in reference to Sam's comments about it always being too hot, we could certainly try to go to the regional high school.
Okay.
I assume we need to have that before the warrant closes, though?
We do.
Yeah, okay.
Okay, I
So
will
we need to have
definitely,
that confirmed
I will
for
definitely,
May 15th.
definitely. Although I hear that there's a warrant article to fix the air conditioning at the high school. So, I don't know, Sam, I'm gonna do my best. So if we have air conditioning, we'll go to the high school.
No, I'm sure you do the best, but it just, if it's comfortable and warming and opening, and it makes people say, I want to go to that meeting.
Okay,
That's what it is.
okay. So we will.
Otherwise, if it's difficult.
Okay, so
people don't want
we've got the time, the date and the time, the 13th at 6:30 PM, and a location to be determined at the close of the warrant.
Now, we are not meeting again until right after the warrant closes. Do we need to meet to establish a location, or is that something you can take care of?
We don't need to establish a location at this time.
Okay. We're not meeting again before the warrant closes, right?
Correct, but the warrant will be before you for signature. I'm going to propose that the
Okay.
board have a special meeting on either the 24th or 25th of May for the purposes of signing the annual town meeting warrant. The timing of that is good because the Finance Committee will be meeting on the 23rd
Okay.
to vote any changes, reconcile the FY24 budget. So this special meeting would take place after that and give you an opportunity to take a look at what the Finance Committee recommendations are and whether you wish to kind of true up the budget and make sure that the recommendations are consistent. So I would ask the board to, that will be the date of actual signing the warrant will be the 24th and the 25th.
Okay.
And so we'll set that date before the end of the meeting tonight?
I think it's important to the board to set that date.
Well, that would be the holiday week, so we would be in either Wednesday, on Tuesday is when the Budget and Finance is going to meet on the 23rd,
Right.
immediately following Memorial Day. And so was Wednesday night an okay night for you?
29th Memorial Day.
Oh, I'm sorry, yeah, wrong week. Okay, so 24th,
That should be fine.
Wednesday night?
We can do it Wednesday
Okay,
night.
is that okay for you? Great,
Great for me.
okay.
Okay.
24th, then that's perfect.
All right, so then we have the motion from you without the location. I'll
Yes.
second that.
We have a motion made and seconded regarding the town meeting date and time and location to be determined at a later date. Those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Looks like a vote. Okay.
Fine.
Anything else, Greg?
Yeah, I have a couple of things. I've been working on the job description for the town administrator and the proposed bylaw change that I had suggested to the board a few weeks ago. I've got copies of the latest. I don't want to go through it and don't need to go through it here this evening with the board because you've seen it before.
Right.
But I figure if we're going to take a look at creation of a bylaw, we want to make sure that the job description is consistent and lines up with the position in the bylaw. So the changes that you see here are some suggestions that I've made along those lines. The section that needs to be kind of looked at again is on the second page. It talks about the town administrator assisting the personnel board. So it says, Town of Barre, position description, town administrator, assist personnel board and department heads with administration of the town's personnel bylaw. We have the town administrator and the board of selectmen are empowered to be the personnel board. So there needs to be some consistent language in that I need to line that up. The way the original job description was put together is it was actually a personnel board that was here at one time, and that has since been done away with the fact that the Board of Selectmen and the Board of Selectmen has put together a personnel manual, and the town administrator is the personnel administrator. So I need to kind of line those things up. One thing that I mentioned at the last meeting was I think it would be a good opportunity to have a hearing on the proposed town administrator bylaw. I would suggest that we could do that on the 15th of the month, and the reason why I suggest that is that would be consistent with the date of the closing of the warrant. And if for some reason you decided to change that article as a result of the public hearing or not have it altogether, you have an opportunity to kind of react to it before the warrant is finalized. So, Madam Chair, if the board would consider it, I would suggest that that would be the appropriate date. I'll make sure that the draft of everything goes before town council, and hopefully they'll give us a better response than they did at town meeting. But the draft bylaw that I provided you with was from a community where I previously worked, and the same law firm vetted that article at town meeting. So there shouldn't be many changes, but you never know.
You have a motion?
I would move to set a public hearing for the town administrator bylaw on May 15th at 6 PM.
Thank you.
I would second that motion. Thanks for coming.
Thank you. Hi, Mark.
There's your mom. We have a motion made and seconded to have a special meeting or a hearing.
Public hearing,
A
yeah.
public hearing on May 13th.
May 15th.
I'm sorry.
Yep.
Those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, thank
We'll
you.
let you catch up.
Speaking of hearings, I would also ask that the board, to reconvene the hearing on the nuisance dog complaint that had been previously brought before you. I couldn't find any letter in the file indicating what the board's decision was, and I think it's wise, and I talked to the chief of police about reconvening that nuisance dog hearing, and I would again suggest that that be done on the 15th in the interest of time, because it's been something that's been going on for a while.
Okay. There would be notification of the appropriate people.
Yes, and we make sure that the people will be present
And
along with
the-
the dog officer.
Great, okay.
I would move to have a public hearing on the
15th.
on the 15th at 6 PM for a nuisance dog complaint.
Would second that motion. Those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
And then just two other quick things, which are updates on various accounting issues. You received in your packet a copy of what our balance is in the ARPA fund account. The ARPA is the American Rescue Act, which was filed by the Biden administration back in 2021. And you can see that the town had received a total of $1,727,119, of which the balance that's available at this time is about $1.2 million. And that's just something that we need to kind of keep aware of. It can't go toward the budget, so if people are saying, can we use it to put toward our operating budget, we can't. There are very strict rules in terms of what it can be used for, but I feel it's important for you to know what the running balance is on that. And then the last item that's on my...
Before we move off of that, is there a set date that we know of when those funds would expire? Or a set timeline that the state's put in place?
It's federal, and for some reason I thought it was 25?
I think it's 20.
2025.
25.
25
Yep.
has generally been,
And they need to be appropriated, but not necessarily spent, if I
That's
remember
right.
correctly, right? Okay.
That's right.
I mean, obviously, it's our hope that we can make, the appropriate deal or contract with Charter, Spectrum, whatever,
That-
to get complete service, 100% service of cable to all of the residents in the community. It has been difficult, and I say that's not as strong a word as it should be, to try to work with Charter and Spectrum. They have, it's not in their best interest, they could care less. So they are not certainly eager to give us a price. We have been all over the ballpark with prices. We do have an attorney that's working with us now. We'll be meeting with an engineer that will go over and sort of check Spectrum's Charter's work to see how accurate our team thinks it is, so we can finally get to a number, because obviously we're trying very hard to hold the line on ARPA funds, because one of the main things ARPA was supposed to be spent on was to the last mile, to try to get service to all of our residents, or all the residents across the Commonwealth. So we do have some monies there that we hope will be for cable access, and then we hope that the remaining amount we will be able to utilize in other areas, fire, police, and so forth. Those are areas where we can use the ARPA funds, and we will continue to work hard to get this done for the residents. I think the residents who do not have cable have been more patient than I probably would have been, but we're doing our best. We did some areas by cooperating with the town of Petersham, and Petersham brought lines in from another vendor. They had to get and pay for licenses from Charter, because Charter has the license for every pole in the community. So it's really a public utility that acts as, quite frankly, a monopoly. But that's my opinion, for what it's worth. Moving on, Greg.
Last on my list, there was a letter that I gave you concerning Republic First National, which is the company that's going to be doing the lease finance on the fire equipment that was authorized by town meeting. I understand there was some question of whether documents had been signed committing the town to the financing arrangement that you see in front of you. I did speak with the individual who signed the letter, and she indicates to me that in fact is not the case. So
it's not been signed?
Correct.
Okay.
And we will proceed with that, and it will be signed. The terms that you see are here. The total cost of the project is $1,005,000, and you can see the amount of payments and the amount that would be due. But it's at least it gives me some level of comfort that this was done, at least before town meeting, and nothing was signed binding the town pending a town meeting vote, which I think was the main concern I had.
And is this, what is the term of the lease?
It says 9 payments, so it's 9 annual payments
Okay, so it's a 9-year lease.
of $45,797.
145,000.
Sorry, yeah, what am I talking about?
I wish it was 45,000.
I wish it was that. So, that's the number that we've got to kind of keep in mind going forward in terms of what
Yeah.
our costs would be.
Well, the interesting thing is, that's a little better than we had hoped.
Yep.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, select board reports, John?
I don't have anything this week.
Okay. I just have the information regarding the rehabilitation of the town clock. The Barre Foundation, Barre Savings Foundation, Charitable Foundation is funding a $24,000 redo of that clock in the town hall. In its work, the Historical Commission is sort of supervising the work, obviously, because of the significance of the historical value of the bell and all that's over in the cupola. While they were doing the work, they found that the cupola is leaking. Okay, a bad thing. But it's leaking not because of a roofing issue, but because there needs to be a collar around the flagpole that is flexible, because the flagpole does this up on the town hall whenever the wind is moving. And so in order to replace that sleeve that needs to go there, we have Kid Luco and I think another roofing company that are looking at this thing to see how much it will cost. We're not as concerned about how much it will cost. It doesn't look like a big cost item, except for the lift and getting up on that cupola. So what we're trying to do is to cooperate with the Historical Society they need the lift to go up there to do the clock face, so that we would be able to use the same lift simultaneous to fix the flagpole sleeve. So that is gonna probably cost us half of the lift cost, which is probably $2,500 at least. And so we, just to let people know that we will be working on that. It's very important that the $25,000 that's been invested by the charitable foundation, makes sense, because it would be terrible to get it all wet after putting that kind of money in. So just to let you know that that's a project that's ongoing, and if you see the lifts up there, that's why they're up there. And hopeful that we're gonna be able to do that within the next month or two. Good weather, being essential to that operation. I don't have any other reports. Do you have anything, Mark, at this point? Okay. Correspondence, we did get a letter from the 250th Anniversary Committee thanking the community for its generosity to provide the funding for the 250th, shall we say, anniversary, and all of the events that have been planned for that. We are hopeful that the Charitable Foundation will be funding some amount of that. And also, we believe that the Senate and Massachusetts State Senate will also be funding a portion of that, due to the fact that that's typical, that happens. It's not like special for Barre, it happens for all communities. So we believe that the real cost to the town of Barre will be $50,000, not $100,000, but we needed to give them sufficient funding to go forward in, paying deposits on events that will be included in the parade, getting a date for fireworks and those kinds of things. So
Getting
they're-
deposits down on
Yeah, and so
things
they're-
that need to be booked out well in
Yeah.
advance.
So they're happy to have our support, and I mean our community support, and I think we should be happy for the work that they've done. They've worked really hard, and I hope they have better luck for their fireworks than they've had for their skating rink. I mean, I don't even think they got on it once this winter. It was just so, yeah. But anyway, so they're doing a terrific job, and we thank them for their efforts. I have new business. We have several individuals here that will be making discussions or having discussions with us. I think Caruso Construction is first on our agenda, and so I proposed zoning change South Street discussion. And again, that discussion is going to be led by Mr. Caruso.
How's everybody doing?
Hi there.
How are you doing? I understand you have been very ill.
Yeah, pneumonia. Terrible.
Yeah.
But we don't work like that. Somebody's gonna do it.
I guess, huh?
Okay. How's everybody? All right. Anyway, did you get a copy of the proposed article changes? It's only two, well, I think the first time you saw it was four.
Yeah.
What we were trying to do.
So this is a little different than what we've seen. Okay.
Yeah, I'm keeping it basic. What I was trying to do is try to amend the zoning for all of the towns. If you had water and sewer, be able to go to R20 or R15. The planning board wasn't really up for that, because it left really too many unanswered questions. Okay, really, after even describing the areas that could possibly be turned in to R20, because of the scope, the limited scope of having water and sewer in town, and it's only in the directed areas, so they were afraid that somebody could take it up to a farm and, have thousands of units there. So we took those sections out. Basically, there's two proposed articles, and the first one basically is allowing two families in an R20 or an R15 zone, provided you have water and sewer. Okay. And then, ever since I was on the planning board in 1985, everybody always said, well, how come you don't allow it? And I said, well, that's just the way the original zoning was in this town when they first adopted zoning regulations. Okay. So the planning board it continues with that struggle, like how come it's not allowed in those areas, okay? there's 3 and 4 families, or even more, you can have an unlimited amount of multi-families, but it's allowed by special permit. Okay, it'll always still be allowed by special permit when you go 3 or more units. Okay, and that's what I'm proposing in the first article. Okay, which is strictly changing and allowing a duplex in an R15 or R20 zone in this town. Does everybody understand that?
Yep.
Now, the discussion says it's on the proposed zoning change for South Street.
Yes, that's
No.
the second article.
Okay,
Yeah, the second article is identified more for the property that I have, which when I bought the property and I brought it up to have it signed off by the planning board, they all said, you know, it wasn't just 1 or 2, they all liked that area, said, why don't you do multifamily there? I said, well, I can't, because it's zoned R80, and you're only allowed a duplex in an R80 zone. So they would be behind this, and they are in favor of this change, which would allow,
they are?
yes.
They've given us no communication on any of this.
Yeah.
But they would give a favorable recommendation at town meeting.
Okay, and there's no water and sewer here.
There is.
Where, up
My
on,
place? Yeah.
right next to the post office?
Yeah,
Where's
yeah, I'm
this?
bringing the sewer up. from
Because it has to be
Stetson.
extended, right, Tim?
What's that?
It has to be extended.
Yes,
right?
it has to be extended. Here's Stetson Road.
Yeah,
Okay, I'm bringing it, right now it comes right to here. Okay, because they tied this little house on the corner of Stetson Road in South Street.
so this Seven Hills, they have a private line.
No, they've taken and once they go on the road, okay, the town has it. Okay, I'm taking from the town location, okay, coming across the street, which I already went before the sewer board, and they said that'd be fine, and bring it all the way up. Okay, if the post office wants to join in, then they can pay the difference to where I'm going to there. Because the post office doesn't have town sewer.
Right. Yeah, 'cause it's town sewer from this end, and
Right, it stops, okay, it
by
stops
the old
basi-
Cooks Canyon.
Yes,
Yeah.
because it has to be gravity fed, they didn't want to
Yeah,
put a pump in,
right.
pump station.
Right.
Okay, now what I did,
So you're looking to put multifamily houses next to
right
the
next to the
post
post
office?
office, yes. Yep.
Multi by, I mean, 4-family, 3-family, 2-family?
I would like to do anywhere from 2 families to 6 families, okay? But anything over a 3 needs a special permit. So each individual unit would still have to go, or I just do them as one big group and show the plan as it goes.
Are you looking for like an over 55 community?
Well,
Or what are you looking at?
What I would like to
There's
do.
not that much land there.
No, it would be, well, it's, you know, it'd be anywhere from 10 to 20 units that wouldn't, you know, and I'm talking 1 bedroom, 2 bedroom only. I really don't want to get into 3 bedrooms. I would like to give have it so 25% of the units that we're doing be allocated to 55 and older, okay, because you don't know how many people asking to build over 55, instead of driving and buying
Mhm.
and living out of town, they have to go to Rutland, is the closest place.
Right.
We don't have a bylaw, that's the next thing, and I think I'm gonna be doing that in the master plan, but you know, and I know it's gonna take probably 2, 3 years for anything to get approved of that magnitude. Although you can put in an open space plan, which the planning board's trying to do, but it's not directed to over 55, but you can. I'm telling them, and I'm asking them, why don't we go get Rutland's over 55 plan, just adopt it. You know, and just start to, you know,
Think about it.
think about it. Let me just go down, because a lot of people say that, you know, I'm just doing this special permit. Well, part of it is, obviously, okay? But the other part is, I just recently sold my house. Anybody ever try to get an apartment in this town?
Well, you can't.
I see people searching for them every day.
Serious?
Good luck, good luck.
Good luck.
My son
Okay.
tried.
Yeah, okay. The only places that are open,
Yeah.
that come open, are units that were built in the 20s and the 30s. That's it. Okay, I'm willing to take that risk to actually build them, especially in this environment.
So these units aren't for sale, these are for,
Some of them I am going to because I'm gonna structure them as it could be condo,
right,
so people could individually buy them.
right.
You know, until you, building costs keep going up and up and up. It's very, I was gonna say, unsettling for anybody in our field. A lot of people are just dropping out.
Mhm.
Okay, so I would probably have to sell a certain amount of them in order for the note to be positive, in order to, you know, your rents in town, you're not gonna get more than $1,700 for a two-bedroom, even though it's brand new. You go to Worcester, you're gonna spend $2,500.
Mhm.
Three-bedroom, you're gonna spend almost $3,000,
Mhm.
or if not more. So I might have to sell some of them to help bring the note down so I have positive cash flow.
So why just a piece of them be 55 and older, and why not go for the whole thing 55 and older?
Well, then what happens to the person who is younger, they want to move out of the house, they want to live in an apartment? They can't. I want to do an over
Seems like-
55, and I got another spot for it that's even better, which
You
is
do?
right next to the senior center, okay?
We don't have enough of that.
What's that?
We don't have enough.
Exactly.
We don't have enough of
We
either
don't have
one.
any.
Yeah.
We don't have enough, we don't have any.
The
I mean, we
only,
also need to, if we're going to make housing available, it wouldn't hurt to, have,
I would like to,
the availability to bring in,
Very
other
serious.
ages as well,
The
not
only-
just.
The only thing I would warn you, and that I would speak to, which sounds crazy with my background, when you make all kinds of apartments available, like has been in South Barre right now, right? You burden the schools. And when the schools are burdened, they have, costs. And when those costs come to town meeting, there's holy hell raised. So when and if the town decides to make this decision, it will stress its schools, which is fine with me. I think it's wonderful to have children, I think it's wonderful to have them well-educated. But please don't diminish the fact that they'll pay their own way in the sewer, they'll pay their own way in the water, but they will not pay their own way, educating children. And if you're gonna educate children, everybody's gonna get in the mix. So,
Aren't enrollment
What-
rates going down at this time, though, for the
What?
most part?
what's that?
I thought we were having less kids enrolled in schools
well,
recently.
you have a very stable amount of students currently in the schools. They're not going down, they're just, maintaining, which, does not put a lot of burden, but you put a lot of apartments in, and there's,
I mean,
I'm-
how many apartments would make a burden on the school system on one or two bedrooms? I'm not doing, I really don't want, like, well, I don't.
Well, I'm saying, when you have,
Personal, but I don't really want to have a lot of kids in this.
well, the thing of it is, it's hard to mix 55 and over with children, let's be honest.
Yeah, well, I would separate the buildings.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it just is. I mean, kids want to play, and I want them to play, and so forth. But obviously, this isn't anything we can make a decision on tonight. We would have to take it under advisement. And
Well, I mean, I think with this process, and correct me if I'm wrong, because I haven't really done a zoning change
Mhm.
in 20 years, or been sitting on the planning board, but I still am up with everything.
Yeah.
But the process is that I've got to go to selectmen, is that true?
Yes,
Right. And then you guys, whether you're for it or not, got to get it on there. You gotta get the
I understand our obligation to put it on the warrant.
Right.
But it's your obligation to work with the zoning board of appeals, I would say. Well, ultimately, if that's where you're
You
going.
mean the planning board?
Well, the planning board, but then ultimately, you're looking for special,
No, we're looking at changing the zoning, which is.
you're not looking for a
subject-
variance then.
No, no variance. I'm trying to change,
So you're gonna change it not only for you, but for every other person? No.
no, I did allow that, so, but the planning, it was too much for planning board to digest right now. So just, they wanted to keep it simple, stick with your property right there. And here's the reason why it's good. You guys got that one that's been outlined?
We have a copy of that.
Yeah. Okay, so let's just, you're coming out of the center of town,
Yep.
okay? And we're coming this way.
Yep.
All right, and here's Walwinet Road, all right?
This is where we're going up here?
Yeah.
Okay,
Okay, this is actually R20 right up to here,
yeah,
okay? The next thing is the solar fields.
right,
Okay, then you got Carla Mills, Peterson.
yep.
Okay, I still.
You and I, we know.
We go back way too long.
Yeah.
Okay, and then you have
Got
the post office,
Then you got this,
and then you have my piece,
Yeah.
but let's go, we'll keep going down. We got Seven Hills, where
Yep.
Edgar Sykes used to live.
yeah,
Okay, and then you got Ryan Goodwin.
Yeah.
Okay, then it's his old house he lived in, then you got the school.
yep,
Now, let's just go the other side of the street,
Mhm.
okay, from the solar field, this is all Seven Hills,
Yes.
okay? There's, in this little house that they have here,
Yeah.
I'm not sure what they're gonna do with that.
Well,
It's
I
kind
think-
of a mess inside,
yeah, I
from what
think
heard.
probably get raised, probably, but maybe
Yeah, so
not.
you have this place, then you have the church.
Yeah.
Okay, and then you've got the police.
Yep,
Okay, and then you have.
Dick Clark.
Dick, way down over here.
right,
I mean, it's an area that's, I think is very conducive to having a nice apartment, so when you drive by, I'm not gonna build something that's not gonna be nice, and it's in a good location. Whether you're over 55, or you're a young child, or a newly married couple that wanna have and live in this town, but can't afford to get into a house.
mhm,
I mean, my starter houses are approaching 450,000 for a
Mhm.
basic ranch.
right,
Matter of fact, one I sold 3 years ago at 369 is now, they resold it at 480. And I'm
Yeah.
like, wow,
yeah.
I should have held on it for a couple more years.
Tell me, how many acres do you have here?
There's 6 acres,
6 here?
yeah. And I only plan on using the front part of it, because when you go past,
It's a little wet.
yeah, it starts getting wet. Okay, and that's why I'm bringing the fill in. I want to lift the houses up. Because that way all the it'll all be gravity fed for the sewer.
Mhm. So you're just asking for this one parcel?
Yep.
Well, that's the second proposed article, right? The first proposed
Yes,
article
first is just changing
right, that would
the
change,
zone,
yeah,
it's, townwide, that if you have an
20 or 15.
R15 or
Yeah.
R20, you're allowed duplex,
Mm-hmm.
which are allowed a 3 and 4 or 5 or 6 family, if not more, by special permit.
Right.
So why not allow the duplex?
You have some of those available in town, right, here and there,
What's that?
duplexes?
I-
Nothing?
I don't know of anybody that's built a duplex.
Oh, okay.
Does that, is anybody
Uh,
built one?
Peach Street and School Street have
That's
duplexes.
Those
what
are the
I-
old,
yeah.
yeah, but those have been built
Long time ago.
in
Right.
the 30s. High Plains, I think is,
Early 1900s, probably.
yeah, I think.
It's been around a long time.
Barry Wall.
The
Yeah.
Barry
Yeah.
Wall, you know, so
Yeah.
it goes back to, the teens.
Yeah.
The Italian section of the teens.
What would be, so that you're thinking about, this is going to be not 55 and over, it can be anybody.
I would dedicate some if people would count for that.
It just seems like
So-
such a small swath of land.
I know, 6 acres. I mean,
Realistically, what do you think you want to put in?
what's that?
How many do you want to put in there?
I would like to do 10 to 20, depending on how the.
Parking?
Plenty of parking for it. Some of them I can do townhome style. Maybe the ones further down towards the school.
No, that's R20 down through there, that whole,
No, it's not now.
Oh, it's not?
No, it's R20,
right here.
like if you come from the center of town.
Yeah, to
You know,
here.
Yeah.
where it splits here, that's still R20.
And that's it?
And anything as far as what it is, the apartments and stuff, anything outside of this proposed bylaw would be for the planning board anyway, not for us, I believe.
Yeah.
So that's a little outside of our scope
Yeah,
anyway,
which is fine.
as far as, who and how. But these changes, I think, certainly, I think as long as, we understand the impact that especially the first one would have to all of them, which, I'd definitely want to hear the planning board's opinion on, but,
Yeah,
I don't see any, major impacts initially, just from, but, I don't have that expertise personally, so.
There's really a limited amount of R15 and R20 left in town.
mhm,
The Higgins' zone, back at their place, you got Overtown Farm Road, that's all R15, R20. And other than that, there's a few lots down on the end of South Street with no sewer.
Mhm.
But I think that's it.
mhm.
There really isn't a lot left. And some of it's in the floodplain.
Yep.
A lot of it's in the floodplain.
So did Seven Hills actually put the sewer in?
Seven Hills, what they did is.
Because the town didn't put that in.
No.
No.
Yeah, see, originally, so Stetson Home owned it, what they did is they came down through the woods,
Yep,
okay? Like, how the school comes down,
Yeah.
and it's
yeah, the school.
Loring Road
yeah,
right where
the
the
s-
intersection.
yeah, The school goes
Okay.
down over Hillendale.
Yes,
Yeah.
yeah, goes down,
Yeah.
ties in right
Yeah.
by
The old
corner of
Cart Road.
Stetson
Yeah.
and.
That's where the leach field
and
used to be.
Loring. Yes, exactly. Okay, and, like I tied the, the ski area in.
Yeah.
There's sewer there.
Yeah.
But now what they did is Stetson when Stetson did it, they came down Stetson Road, and they basically, where the,
Well, here's Stetson
you know
Road
where-
here.
Yeah, where the police department
Yeah,
came, okay.
but the police department is in subsurface disposal, or are they in the town sewer?
No, they tied in onto Stetson.
On the Stetson?
Yes.
Okay,
Okay, so, right, Stetson Road's right here.
yeah.
Okay, so the police went right through the woods and tied in here,
Mhm.
and that's where Stetson
Stetson
tied.
ties in.
Like, I built them houses at the top of
Okay.
the, right here, these
Yeah.
houses here. And basically the sewer now goes from here.
So there's no water, though,
There's no water here going down.
Stetson?
Down Stetson.
So you'd
Road,
have
but
to-
there is-
you'd have
There is
to-
water coming down here.
Oh, there is,
Yes,
okay.
'cause
Yeah,
that
because it goes down
feeds
to the
the
school,
school,
right,
yeah.
okay,
And it goes down South Street.
okay, yeah.
I'm sorry, it doesn't go down South Street,
Just goes to the school.
because,
It goes up to,
no, it goes up to the schools, it goes up Root Road,
Root Road,
but it doesn't go down South Street.
Right.
Okay, I
Mhm.
tied in, like, my house is on South Street, because the tanks are up behind
Yeah.
my house, and I have an easement coming, well, the
Yeah.
town has an easement going to our properties, and I tied in.
okay,
But there is water and there is sewer going right across the front of this, there's water going across the front. I'm bringing the sewer across the street and along the road here.
good. Okay,
You'll never
well,
be able to do it, the soil conditions are there.
obviously, if it's our obligation, regardless of our opinion about this, to put it on the warrant, I mean, thanks for coming,
I'm just
but,
curious, it's just, like, what would stop, why would you not want to?
I just look at 6 acres, that to me is like a postage stamp, and to put 20 units on it, to me goes, oh my God, but of course, maybe that's me. And, I know what you mean, you go through Rutland, and there's some very nice
Well,
places.
just speaking about Rutland, if you're staying on 122, the
Yeah,
ranches that
yeah,
they did,
yeah.
there's about 12 units there.
Is there?
And
I
that's
don't know.
probably about 3 acres.
Uh-huh,
You know.
yeah.
And you see, it's far enough off the road, and it's very nice. I
Mhm.
think it's great.
There's a balance that we need to hit at some point between maintaining our identity and also stopping our tax base from dwindling out. And, I think, again, that's where the planning board really comes into it.
Yeah.
And I think we're open, you can attest to this, you've been around, okay?
A little bit.
How many 40Bs have you seen in a day?
Too many.
Ask you about that.
Too many.
All right, well, it's gonna come to town.
Too many.
Because we are under the limit where we need to be.
Pretty much everybody is.
Everywhere.
Yep.
Exactly. You guys must be getting a lot of documentation from Boston saying, hey, we need to get more units, we need this, we need that, no?
No, I wish we got some things from Boston, but that's not one of them, no.
Okay.
No. Why didn't you go that route to begin with,
What's that?
the 40B?
Not on this.
This is a
I don't want to shut it down.
Say it again?
This is better than a 40B.
For us.
And the problem is, a 40B takes away the decision-making process of the
I know
town.
that, that's why I'm asking.
I don't want to do that. I mean, I have a nicer area to do bigger amounts for over 55. And it's got water and sewer, it's right next to the senior center. And it's beautiful.
Mhm, I know where it
butts
is.
up to
Yep.
the 150 acres that the town has, where you guys enjoy riding bikes up through there. It's a nice area. It's just, that's completely set off the road.
Mhm.
That's a great spot too.
Mhm. You don't
We
need, you don't need
some
any,
apartments.
you
I'd
don't-
rather do the apartments.
you need any zoning changes to do that?
Eventually, yeah.
You,
Yeah.
similar to this or different than this?
No, not much difference if I wanted to be, do it friendly and approach the town that way. I mean, it's a perfect spot to do multiple families and multiple units, I should say. I'm not looking at increasing the schools. but-
Well, I'm not averse to increasing schools, but I know what people say, okay, when you talk about the apartments we do have
Yeah.
and the pressure they put, and the opportunity they have for accessing additional revenues for the town. I mean, let's face it, a 55 and over couple is a different impact on the community
Absolutely.
than a family of 5.
They're more impact on the ambulance.
This, they do. They have more impact on the ambulance for sure. Cheaper though than schools. And my only concern is that obviously that the planning board does its due diligence and we have a representation at this town meeting
Absolutely.
that gives a good perspective of what this means for the community, and then the community gets to vote.
Exactly, and we are gonna have to have our hearings according to this.
Mhm.
It's gonna be advertised twice in the paper,
Yeah.
and
Oh, yeah.
everybody's gonna show up that wants to voice their opinions.
Which is always the scary part.
You know, I see this as I don't see it as a bad thing. I'm very comfortable talking about it, so see what happens, see what kind of concerns people have.
Absolutely.
There was actually a question from the
Dennis?
public.
I think Mr. Caruso's idea is excellent. There is no affordable
Anything.
apartments in here. I myself, right now, since September, have been looking. I qualify as a senior with a disability, and I live in town here. And there's a bylaw in this town that states our elderly housing is to take Barre residents
First.
first, yet they take people from out of state. So his idea, and having been a past member of the planning board, I would vote immediately in favor of what he's proposing.
Mhm.
We need this,
Mhm.
big time. And I'm not saying that in a selfish way. It's common knowledge in this town that, when's the last time there was any additions put on the senior housing here? In the 70s.
Yeah,
The original building.
yeah.
To be
They
honest,
put apartments. Same thing.
yeah, I mean, part of what I'd like to do down the road is for even more senior. You get 55 and older, but it's usually, 55 to 70-year-old people that are still very active, okay? But I wouldn't mind doing a certain section right next to the senior center, so they literally can get out and walk over it, and I'm talking 1970s and older.
Wasn't that area going to be developed at one point? Past the senior center, I believe the Tripolo family owned
Oh, yeah.
a swath back in there.
That's a tough spot over there. There's
Yeah.
some gentlemen that bought it, and they've had it in the
Yeah,
family.
for a long
For
time.
sale.
Yeah. And,
That's nothing
they,
sad.
if it was approved, but it's elapsed in time, it was approved as R40, the small lots. It's very difficult ground, I should say.
Mhm.
But I don't think that will, it's an actual.
Well, we will do our due diligence, and
You got any questions?
our warrant is open, effective about, what, in a half hour ago?
Yes.
So,
So I'm first?
you're first request.
Okay. All right, thank you. Is there
Thank
any
you.
other questions?
Well, I'm sure there'll be many, and I would, it won't be your first, time at the town meeting, so you'll know what to expect. It's always a thrilling event.
Won't be as thrilling as the time that we tried to change the bylaws way back
Oh, way back in
in
way,
85.
yeah.
Anyway, thank you.
Well, anyway,
Thanks.
thank you very much, Jim, I'm glad you're
Thank you.
feeling better.
Thank you. Thank you.
Okay, moving along. We have the Barre Trails update, Steve?
Yep. Thank you for having us. We've got a group of us here that are actively involved in our local trail system. This started coming together in about 2018. I really can't take the credit of starting this whole Barre Trails Association. It was actually started by Ed Yaglum,
Okay.
who has since passed.
Mhm.
It was his vision, and I saw an ad in the that was in the Barre Gazette for a meeting
You're
here
right.
at this building, where he brought together a group to look at expanding on outdoor recreation in the town of Barre. So from there, we started to progress, and we've worked on several projects in the town over the past 5 or 6 years. Some on private land and some on town land. Projects have been quite successful. We've had a tremendous outpouring of support from local residents that took interest in this. It's all been volunteer work, where we've rebuilt, rehabbed, and extended and built new, a little bit of everything, trails, primarily for hiking, biking, or whatever, just outdoor recreation. Our primary efforts have been really in 2 areas. One is off of Woods Road in Barre, which is on private property, that is zoned recreation, so it's in a Chapter 61B maybe is the filing that it's under, which allows outdoor recreation on private land. It's owned by the Duplessis family, very nice people. I reached out to them, being I live in that area, and I spoke to Bob Duplessis and his wife about putting some trails on his property and cleaning up some old trails that were there that I knew from when I was a kid. They were very open to that, and we've since developed with their property and some property that goes into Ocam, we've developed on that side approximately about 15 miles
Wow.
of single track type trail. Again, it's some on the town of Barre and Ocam, but it's all on private property. Property owners from many different ones, including even the owner of the golf course, who's been gracious about allowing us to utilize part of his property. So it's been a great success story on that part. And then we've also been working on a project that Ed kind of visioned on town property, which is on town farm property. Kind of like Jimmy Crusoe, abutting the area that he was just talking about. It's in a pretty centralized location in the town, accessible from several different roads. There was a series of trails that were in there from years ago, from dirt bikes and ATVs and old party spots from kids, and just it was quite an active area back in the day. But much of it had grown in. So we have gone in with a group of us volunteers, and we've cleaned up a lot of the trails. We've rerouted many of the trails. You know, the ATVs and the dirt bikes are, you know, good, but they generally aim for the wet spots in the mud because they kind of like that, whereas the hikers and the bikers and whatever other trail users try to avoid the wet spots. So we've done quite a few reroutes to kind of get away from those areas. That property on Town Farm is a very interesting property. It has a lot of ledges and outlooks, and just it's quite surprising how nice it is in there. I grew up just down the street from there, and honestly, there were parts of that property that I never saw. But upon our exploring and connecting trails, we just found some really great areas.
Are they marked in any way, Steve, where if you're a neophyte and you wanted to go up in the town farm area, is it easy to find? Is it marked out? Is it?
It is. We've been working on it, and I won't say that it's well marked at this point, but that is one of our missions, is to better mark the trails. We've had support because this has all been volunteer, there's been no per se funding, but we have had great support from us volunteers, as well as New England Mountain Bike Association has contributed, as well as Monty Tech. They helped us construct a small kiosk that's off the side of Route 122 there at the trailhead. We have future plans of putting a better map in
Is that the
there.
one that's almost across from Kathy Lane, that
It is.
area? Okay.
Yep, exactly. That's the primary
Entrance?
And then there's many different variations. I actually brought a few maps that I can give to you.
Great, thank you.
And we also have a volunteer who's not here tonight that does a lot of machine work and whatnot at home, and he actually constructed us some nice signs for the trails themselves that we've been fixing to some of the trees in there to kind of give better direction. With today's technology, there's an app called Trail Forks.
Mhm.
And they are on Trail Forks, which actually shows you your live location
Cool.
on the map as you're walking or whatever you're doing. So that's a pretty good tool to use to navigate.
Do you guys load those on? How does that get?
Yeah, I don't personally, because that's beyond my
You're right.
technical ability, but
I hear ya.
we have a trail user that's actually a big part of New England Mountain Bike Association. And as well as Brian, I think Brian has done some as well.
Yeah.
What's
where
the
they-
app's name?
Trail Forks.
Forks?
Yeah, Trail Forks. And it's free in the App Store.
I saw your neighbor, Sheridan. He can track him with that.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Today's where he goes.
Yeah.
Yeah, it is. It's a pretty neat tool to be able to use to track your mileage and where you're at. And if you go to I do a fair amount of traveling, and I often try to visit different trails in different parts of the country. And that's my go-to, because otherwise I would be lost the whole time. But I often track it with Trail Forks, and it's pretty cool. It works well.
Excellent.
Dennis, there's no Harleys allowed on that, by the way.
Not yet.
I'm He'll be passing
I
us.
know that's why you're asking.
But it's been a good project. We've really enjoyed doing it. Again, there's been a ton of support. Monty Tech-
use too.
A lot of use,
Yeah,
yeah.
that's right.
Yeah. With that, I guess we would like to see a way to, there's a lot of use, and it's primarily, I would say, a lot of out-of-towners, people that aren't from town. I mean, there's-
I'm actually on a hiking forum, Massachusetts hiking forum. There was one woman that was just driving by and saw the kiosk.
Yeah.
She stopped in there and then, she posted all these pictures of the trail.
Great.
She just walked around.
Yeah, that's great.
Yeah.
So I think there's some value to that we're bringing people in from outside of Barre. Potentially, I would think that at this point, with the amount of use that we're seeing there, I mean, it's quite often you drive by that parking
Yep.
lot and there are vehicles there. And that prior was just a rundown old rest area.
Right.
So I think that some of the local businesses, restaurants, the market, gas station, whatever it may be, I think it will help attract some people to our town. We're in an area that we don't have a lot of attractions per se as far as recreation or different things that people enjoy doing. And we don't have a lot of reasons for them to come to Barre. And myself being part of the master plan committee, we have seen just in our preliminary results of the recent survey that we did, that outdoor recreation is like, I gotta say, probably top 3
Yep.
in the ranking of where people are, what they're looking for in our town. So we've got some great property, such as Town Farm.
Yep.
We have a lot to offer with that. We'd love to expand on it, to kind of maybe put Barre on the map as far as a destination where people would enjoy coming, maybe visit the restaurant after they do a hike or a bike ride or whatever that they may do.
Are there any key network gaps that you find to be an issue?
There's one that we've discussed at our prior meetings that we've had, and again, this goes back to Ed Yago's vision was to extend the rail trail.
Yeah.
And I've had some talks with the East Quabbin Land Trust, and they're interested in helping support that project. I've talked to Ian Goby, Steve Brewer, and there's a ton of support behind doing it. And I guess as Steve Brewer said to me one time, that it needs a champion. It needs somebody that's gonna take it and run with it.
Mhm.
And that's a big undertaking to get that done, just
Mhm.
because of some of the terrain it has to cross, there's some
Mhm.
rivers it has to cross, the old dump that's through
Yeah.
there. There's some challenges, but
Mhm.
in other parts of the state, they've overcome different obstacles like that. And it could be done, but it is gonna take probably more than what we can
Mhm.
put together as our little volunteer trails association.
Those lines.
Yeah, I just don't know the process in doing
Yeah.
that. I mean, I certainly be willing to do my part.
Mhm.
And I know as part of our master plan that we're looking at, I think that would be a part of it as well. But again, that is a bigger thing.
Mhm.
But for the time being, we're making progress on our little projects that we're doing. They seem to be well received by the townspeople. They're very, well used, they're enjoyed. We'd like to have better connectivity, which is our next part of this project, to the senior center,
Mhm.
because the trails are right behind it.
Yeah.
The challenge we have there is, it's a big hill.
Mhm.
And
It's a
it's
big
quite
hill.
steep. So we're working on a way to kind of
Mhm.
soften that climb a little bit,
Mhm.
because I just don't see that those two go well together, as far as the fact that you step out of the back door of the place and it's a pretty good climb.
It's the same with my house on the other side to connect up to the trails. I'm right on Worcester Road. We literally have a rope up at a tree that you can use to climb.
Yeah, yeah. It's
Which is
Town
more for
Front Hill,
sledding down the
so
hill,
it's
but
named
yeah.
that for a reason. It's definitely a hill.
Yeah.
Maybe we could branch into other parts of the town with other future projects on maybe other parcels of land that aren't being used.
Mhm.
At our recent get-together that we had at Stone Cow with the vision plan we had, people were putting tax on a map of where they'd like to see different things take place. And, people had different ideas throughout different areas of the town that would be, ideal for, further outdoor recreation. Some may be doable, some may not. I mean, they may be putting tax on areas that are swampland or something.
Yeah.
But we do have some pretty good opportunity between our town-owned land and private property.
There's an awful lot of privately owned up on Pleasant Street, the old reservoir up on that way, where the Insight Meditation has bought hundreds of acres of land, and they put up signs. It's now a sanctuary, whatever that means, a wildlife sanctuary. So it's really off the beaten path for the public. And then the Audubon has done the whole rest of that hill, but you can walk in there, and there's opportunities. Insight Meditation has been pretty open with doing different trails through there, which I think are almost a little easier. It's not quite as hilly and so forth up in there, but there's some beautiful spots up in there, some, the old Butterworth properties up in that way, and.
It is nice up there.
Yeah,
Very
and then
nice.
the old Bernice McFarland property has now been bought by Phil Stevens and his family, and some of that is going to probably look at land trust stuff. I'm not sure of what, but
Yeah.
they've done a lot of logging and stuff up in there, and they do those, races.
Yeah.
Yeah, up in that area. So there's opportunities up there that I don't think are quite as challenging, but maybe not as beautiful as, some of the things you've talked about tonight.
Right. And ideally, we'd love to be able to connect to, again, restaurants and whatnot.
Yeah.
Higgins, they own a parcel of property that abuts the town property.
Yeah.
Because the town does own a small piece of land on the other side of Town Farm Road
Uh-huh.
that would connect to the Higgins property, which could potentially allow connectivity
Yeah,
to restaurants, Dunkin'
Yeah.
Donuts,
yeah, something.
Higgins,
Yeah.
that whole area. So there's definitely opportunity there.
Mhm.
And we'd like to just, we're just kind of continuing, moving forward. We don't really have any big projects planned, just kind of working on just refining what we have, adding a little bit here and there, and just trail signage and things like that is something we're working on. But we have no funding or budget, so everything that gets done with that, if we make a sign, it's.
You like hinting?
Well, Jessica, our former town administrator, and I had spoke several times about where this would go if we ever needed funding for bridges or anything further. At this point, we really haven't needed it. We just, NEMBA, New England Mountain Bike Association, bought the wood for the kiosk.
Mhm.
Monty Tech students built it in class
Mhm.
as a class project, so really no
And
cost.
I do think the Barre Savings Charitable Foundation is another area of, potential funding. I know that they fund some things similar to that in Princeton. for the Audubon.
Yep.
And so I would not hesitate to bring something to that group. They can only say no. You know, that would be, I think that would be something that they would support as they've supported it in other towns. Because what they have to do is, they're responsible for funding things in the old Barre savings, you know, because there's a bank, was a bank in Paxton, there was a bank in Princeton, and bank in Barre and so forth. So those are the three towns that sort of get serviced, as well as what they call the Quabbin Regional School District. So those are those 5 towns plus Paxton and Princeton. So I would certainly not hesitate to say to you, June, I think, is their next meeting sometime in June. And if you contact Steve Brewer, he can tell you when. That's a potential. It's very simple to do the grants. They're simple, and just to give you, you know, I mean, you're not gonna get $1 gazillion, but you'll get
No, at least
some.
gives us a little direction.
Absolutely.
It's really not that we're really in need of anything right now.
Yeah.
I mean, it's mostly just our labor, so
Yeah.
which is free. So
Okay.
it's not really like we're needing anything at this point, but if
Okay.
we do look to
Yeah.
further expand.
Well, if you do,
then
though, I
that
mean,
time may
just,
come.
I would really recommend you try the local grant people first, and obviously, there might be some things we have to
For
do.
larger scale projects, yeah, there's absolutely a lot of state funding available right now. I know, like Adams and North Adams have quite a bit of trail going in right now. Especially, you know, Rails to Trails is big with the state right now. Rails with Trails sounds a little sketchy, but it does work. So there's different funding sources for those. Also, you know, it might be time for the town to update phase 2 of our complete streets plan, and we could include more trails in those. That tends to be more of, you know, shared use path, you know, with a street type of situations, not as much trails, but that can also be, you know, a way to make those connections within those gaps between the networks. So I think there's definitely areas we could start looking at, you know, and just trying to get that funding. Sometimes that can get a little tricky because they'll expect you to have some sort of plan already made, which,
Yeah,
you know, so that's kind of where that challenge can come in. You know, you for something like that, we'd need, you know, a commitment essentially from the town, from a town meeting to be allocating to that, but.
So that'd be something that would be presented, if we did get to the situation where, say, we wanted to build something substantial, like a bridge or something. That would be something that we would bring up at a town meeting.
no, I would recommend you go to the Charitable Foundation first,
Yeah.
Okay.
as an access,
Yeah.
but,
Not through the
yeah. Well,
state.
This could be more for something this would be something larger. Yeah,
Like a pump or something.
Yeah.
That would be-
yeah,
I mean, our big, larger vision for this, maybe someday down the road,
Right.
would be, the town farm property in general would be a great property to have, like an outdoor area for kids to go and just to promote health and fitness and being outdoors and whatnot, and, you know,
Yep.
the
But-
town really could use like whether it be a bicycle skills park or a skate park, or, you know, just something that, I don't know, we could just see so much more happen
Yeah.
there than what we're doing, and I guess it all is how we can make this progress along. That's all.
Well, and I don't know if any of your ideas would include something like this, but there's the one thing that we did find out when we did some surveying for opera funds and so forth. We had, the most feedback we had was from people wanting a playground that wasn't attached to the schools. Because the schools are always in session when you'd like to take younger children.
Yeah.
So we're hoping once we can get cable service and pay for that, that we'll have some additional funding to put in that. And so your idea might be something that we talk to you about. I think with their parents in their heads, what I garnered from the survey was something like Hubbardston
Exactly.
has.
Right, yes.
Yeah.
That's right.
Yeah.
Very nice.
Yeah.
It is.
So, they're looking for a place where they can go and park a car where they feel safe and so on and so forth. And so,
The other area I think we would absolutely want to take a look into, as we're doing our CBDG grant for South Barre, you know, potentially paths or more, they'd be more structured paths, so to speak, you know, but, or shared use path type of things, along with, you know, some of that might be, we're gonna have to see what comes up through that survey that they're doing, but that's something that might fall into that category for funding.
Okay, well, that's good. It certainly gives us some direction for the future.
well, thank you all
Yeah.
for what you've done and what you've accomplished. That's amazing. And unfortunately, we're not gonna be able to throw money at you, but we can certainly.
That's not why we're here.
Well,
That's why
yeah,
we're
but thank
doing
you, thank you very much for taking the time, not only to do all that work, but to advertise it and to make Barre a little special. Thank you very much.
There was
Jim,
a
did you have a
little
comment?
Yeah, just, are you guys aware of that property, like it's flagged by the DEP? Because that dump used to be on it?
Oh, yeah, yeah.
Mhm.
No, we understand that.
We gotta, I mean, is there any way to get it so it's unflagged, you know, because it was never.
Well, you don't want to get it unflagged if it's unsafe. I mean, if
No,
it's,
what I'm saying is, it was, because it was never, I think, sealed, right?
well, I would suspect it's an old-fashioned style dump that they threw whatever the heck they
Yeah.
wanted to throw in it and never had any clay bottoms or anything like that. So what you'd really have to do is to work with DEP and opening that,
Can of worms?
might be some,
I
yeah.
just wanted to make sure.
but it would not be a good place, obviously, to locate any kind of place for children.
We're not near, we go around the
Yeah.
outside of that, so we don't travel across
Right.
or through the dump intentionally. It is kind of an eyesore.
Oh, yeah.
It's not the prettiest place.
Well, the thing of it is, to make it pretty and to do what needs to be done, we'd have to, do borings around it and see where the effluent's going.
Yeah.
And obviously, it's on, obviously very close to one of the largest aquifers in the state that we happen to have.
Right.
Other than that, who worries?
Someday. Project for another day.
Yeah,
I'll give
well,
you
thank
guys
you
some
very much,
maps
Steve.
here. I only made 3 of them, you guys can have.
Great,
They're not
thanks.
the easiest to read, but
Thanks
again,
so
the trail
much.
forks app is quite handy.
Okay.
And the little
The-
green marker I put there is the trailhead at 122.
Oh, okay.
Just for reference, because the lettering, it's very small, you have to put some glasses on to see it, I can't.
Yeah, okay.
can't make
Yeah, I
that.
forgot.
I think there was some more comment as well from the public.
Do we have some more comment? Dennis?
Yes, Steve was talking about.
John, can I see that for a second? I just want to see what the trailhead is. Of course, I don't know the geography, that's what I'm trying to think
You know
of.
where North Swing is?
Yeah.
Goes all the way up.
That's
to West Hill.
122.
It's a great spot, it runs right along the reservoir.
What street is that right there, the cross
Into
street?
that, And then
Kathy Lane.
old
What is it?
Peters
Kathy
Hill Road by where the O'Connors live, goes right to Queen Lake.
Better.
Oh, yeah.
All the way through there.
Yep, all the way through
Yeah.
there. Narrow lane.
Yeah.
Narrows lane.
No, that's
Yeah.
not private. I don't,
Yeah.
no, it used to be a
Yeah,
road.
it's narrow
I-
lane, it's
My
a
eyes, even with
mile road,
glasses, I
but
can't read the name of
Yeah.
that.
Yeah,
Yep,
Yeah,
it
that's
goes towards Queen Lake.
yep.
Yeah.
It goes all the way to Queen Lake.
Yeah, it's beautiful property.
It used to, in the old days, you could drive a car down there easily. I
I
don't
remember
know,
going down there.
I don't know if you can now, but,
Yeah.
Yeah, that'd be something to look at.
I know, there's a lot of space, we do, we have a lot of open space.
we do.
that
Mhm.
Could be utilized and
Mhm.
kind of, again, help bring some attention to our town.
Right.
Have you
Yeah.
reached out to CMS?
Thanks so much. Okay,
No, I have not.
we have Greg from you, FY '24 health insurance recommendation?
Yes, board members. So you see that there was some information that was included in your packet.
Right,
The Insurance Advisory Committee is recommending that we go forward with our renewal with the Mass Interlocal Insurance Association for 7/1/23. The rate increase that was originally proposed was 8.5%. The committee worked hard to reduce that down to 6.87% for the HMO and PPO plans, 5.53 for dental, and the main achievement in doing so,
it's a decrease?
it's a decrease in the increase,
Okay, got
a
it,
decrease in the increase.
gotcha.
And the main way to do that was to take the ER copay from $50 to $150. If that hadn't been done, we'd be looking at an 8.5% increase. So I thank the committee for their work. You'll note that in the communication from the IAC, they're suggesting that the board at some point consider the contribution going from 68% from the town to 70%. That's not part of the proposal for FY '24, but it is something to keep in mind going forward.
Do you know how many people are actually do
Yeah, so we
carry
have
on?
49 enrollees. Of those 49, 18 of those are retirees, and that's broken down 33 family plans and 16 individual plans.
Okay.
The 18 retirees would be on Medicare.
Yeah. Okay, we need a vote, obviously.
Yes, to accept the IAC Insurance Advisory Committee recommendation for renewal on 7/1/23.
I would move to accept the IAC health insurance renewal recommendation.
We have-
Second.
We have a motion made and seconded to agree with and approve the IAC healthcare insurance recommendations. Any further questions, comments? Hearing none, those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Please, Greg, if you can, just a note to the IAC, thanking them for their work on this.
Absolutely.
Appreciate
We'll
their
do
help.
so.
I know that it's hard to be them because sometimes they would love to get more, and they've been, for the most part, quite reasonable and helpful in helping to control costs. So thank you for that. Thank them for that. Request to use town property. We're looking for a request to use town property by the Christmas in Barre Spring Craft Fair. It says Spring Craft Fair. You doing Spring Craft Fair?
Yeah, we're starting the fundraising.
All righty.
Nice.
Okay.
Nice.
And all the paperwork is done? I'm so surprised.
I didn't do it though.
Okay. Do we have a motion for the request for Christmas in Barre Spring Craft Fair to be held at the town hall?
I'd move to approve the Christmas in Barre Spring Craft Fair to be held on May 13th at the town hall.
We have a second.
Second.
We have a motion made and seconded to approve the Christmas in Barre Spring Craft Fair on May 13th. Those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Looks like it's approved. Okay, old business, anything?
No.
Hearing nothing on old business? I'll accept a motion to adjourn.
I'd move to adjourn.
We have a
Oh.
motion made and seconded to adjourn.
I had something, I understand, I was hoping I could talk for a moment about.
Well, you certainly can. You almost missed it. I was moving to go to
I was
adjourn.
trying to write and think at the same time.
Okay, Dennis.
It just so happens that Jim was up here talking about housing and stuff. I've run into a dilemma with housing and acquiring an apartment here at Grandview, which I applied for back in September. I've reached out and found out that I'm on a waiting list as number 36, even though I applied in September. There's a bylaw in this town, I'm not sure if the board is aware of, and I want to make you aware of if you're not. If you already are, then I'm preaching to the choir. Barre residents have preference there. Yet, people from all different towns and even out of state go in there. I'm not saying anything improper is being done, but trying to find out, you know, the ins and outs of how this happens it's difficult.
Have you had any conversations with the housing authority?
Oh, yeah, I mean, I'm on the list. I just got a message from this, I think you pronounce it name Depot. That's how I found out it was number 36. Which to me is mind-boggling when I applied there back in September. I'm just wondering, you know, what would be the next step if the town can inquire with them and ask them.
You certainly can do that.
Yep.
Are you aware that the bylaw states Barre residents have preference?
Well,
And where
obviously,
does that equate into their
yeah. Well,
formula?
obviously, we would need to verify the bylaw. I can't say that I know
have a
what,
copy of it, I could even give it.
shocking to me, Dennis, that you would come prepared.
I've seen it.
So at any rate, I think
Thank
it's,
you, Doctor.
I think it's a good thing for us to, you know, look into. And the only thing I would wonder what their turnover is. I mean, I have no idea. How many units do they have? What's the turnover, generally speaking? Because then we could at least figure why 36, you know? I don't know.
And the only reason I'm here is because desperate times.
Yeah.
I mean, like I said, this has been going on for me since September. Trying to find affordable housing.
Yeah.
It's extremely difficult when you live on a retirement paycheck.
Mhm.
And things are just getting priced out of range.
Yeah.
And, you know, if I don't ask the question, no is the answer, so.
It's true.
Well, I think if you do have a copy of the bylaw, that would just be helpful if you want to leave it with us. You know, we'll take a look and see with the housing authority what they know and what they don't know, and what their, you know, sort of their census is and what the turnover is, because I have no idea how many units become generally available in the course of a year.
Right. And I'm not asking for any special favors by any means, a due process, but, you know.
When they told you 36, Dennis, did they tell you, like where you, are you like the only Barre resident, or is there anybody ahead of you? They wouldn't tell you any of
We don't know.
that? They wouldn't, okay.
And
Find out.
I plan on going to their next meeting, but I tried several times to reach out to a couple of members, and I don't know as if they just didn't want to talk out of turn, because I know how to follow the rules. You usually go to a meeting and talk, and people don't want to talk to you outside of there for fear of impropriety or whatever. Steve?
Sort of like the Supreme Court.
Yeah,
Thank you.
Thank you very much, Dennis. And Dennis, thank you and you guys who have been working so hard on that monument thing. I know it's
Oh,
it's
starting to shape up.
quite a, although, you know, I'm just saying,
The
Hey.
9/11 memorial.
hey Dennis, you know, it's made my life difficult for flags. That's all I'm saying,
Let me pass.
okay? At least this year. So, okay, now we have to change all the flags. But thank you all for that work on that as well. Again, I would accept a motion to adjourn.
Yep, I made that motion, so I'd call the motion.
Okay, call the motion. Those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. It's a meeting.
see you later. Is there a citation in a particular section of
Why did he
the
give me
code?
this?
Where is
I
it?
know I know that. He gave me this maybe by mistake.
We were looking at doing,
I'm not sure where it is. I'd have to, oh, my phone's
Oh, we,
dead.
Because I have my code book. I'm gonna bring it home and organize it.
See you Thursday?
All those things that didn't get inserted over the years.
Oh, no,
Well, that was a productive meeting.
yes, thank you so much, Greg, for.
That was enjoyable.
Okay, that's stretching.
It is a stretch.
That's a-